Are you trying to get your shift together?
Welcome to the Shift Sisters podcast, where real conversations inspire real transformations. We're not experts, but we're experiencers. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Jennifer Richter.
We're your Shift Sisters.
Whether you're shifting like a sloth or it looks like you're having an exorcism, this is your space to breathe, reflect, and remember. We're here to talk shift with you. Welcome back, Shifties. We are your host, Sandra.
Hi, everyone.
And Jennifer. We are going to get into deep diving a little further into when it all began to shift. And we're going to be talking about the messy middle. And it's things and shifts are messy. I don't know about you, but when life starts to shift on the inside, but the outside has not caught up, you've outgrown old things, but you don't know what to do next. And there's got to be a bridge somewhere between the old self and the new self. And you have to ask yourself, have you ever changed so much inside, but the world around you just did not get the memo, and they're still treating you like the old you, right? So we're going to grab our favorite drink. We're going to do some little breath practices, and we're going to talk shift today.
Love it. Now I see you, girl, with your cup and getting your sip together.
Sipping. I'm not sipping anything fancy.
Okay.
It's an electrolyte.
Yes.
I think, for one, a lot of people know about electrolytes and they use those packets and things like that, but most of those are super full of like sugar and artificial flavor. I have a good one for me, but there's this one I want to try. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called instant hydration. Have you heard of that?
I haven't heard
It's
of that
got
one.
like French gray sea salt that has like 83 of your like essential nutrients or something. So
Yeah, it's like that Celtic sea salt. So I
something
have
like that. Yeah.
So I've been putting Celtic sea salt in my morning water with lemon
Mm,
because it helps with kind of getting the water into the cells. So I do that in the mornings, but yes, same thing.
that's the part. Okay, so I never even really fully understood like the whole like part of how the electrolytes work in the body, but I know for certain if I don't have one electrolyte first thing in the morning, I don't feel the same. And I absolutely can't drink water throughout the day if I don't have my electrolyte to start. It's like it helps me to consume water, but that would make sense that it helps get it into the cells. I didn't realize that.
Yes, I follow Barbara O'Neill, who is just
Oh,
a
I write that down.
master, and she was the one that put me onto that. And castor oil liver packs and all the good stuff. So definitely something to talk about, but I do that every morning to help me because I feel the same way. If I don't have something to help me with my hydration, I feel like I haven't, I can drink and drink and I don't feel like it doesn't infiltrate as much as it should.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know last time we were talking about right before we left the somatic practice,
Mhm.
which I don't even really know how to explain somatic anything to anybody. Maybe you can. I just know what we call it in our house is the 5-4-3-2-1 exercise. But how would you explain somatic to somebody?
Well, I think somatic practice it's just kind of using the body as a means to process, right? So you use elements of the body to, yoga and other things to help you process, let's say, heavy emotion or deep emotion. So this type of somatic exercise is using the five senses. And I
Mm,
think that helps you either align or calm or, whatever the objective is, but you're using the body to help with that objective as opposed to just saying, well, just get calm. Well, no,
uh-huh.
let's use your body to make it work.
Well, I learned about it through Adam, my
Mhm.
husband. He is on the autism spectrum, technically Asperger's, but they don't even, say that anymore. But it took us a long time to even know what we were working with. And yes, I feel like everybody gets overstimulated, but everybody handles and recognizes and processes overstimulation in a different way. And through some of the different resources that we had found for him, they had him do the 5 4 3 2 1. And I honestly don't even know if he knows it's a somatic practice. They just told him it's 5 4 3 2 1. And so I'm glad he shared it with me because I can easily remind him when he's in that space, hey, let's start with five. Notice five things around you that you can see, right? Four, notice four things you can touch. Three, notice three things you can hear. Two, notice two things you can smell. And one thing you can taste. Wherever you're at, right that moment. And I thought it was really interesting because he has a hard time with self reflection
Yeah.
and being aware of his surroundings and how those surroundings and things are affecting him or how he's even feeling right now. And so this had really helped him to put into perspective what's going on inside and outside right now and
Yes.
to calm all the other noise for the moment. And I had even implemented that from time to time with Charlotte because she's a very emotional person, right? And so after he taught me that, I tried it with her and it was very helpful. So if you're overstimulated or kind of like what you were saying, like with those anxiety moments that you were having.
Yes. Yes. And it was a part of my cognitive behavioral methods of like,
Mm,
get back in the moment, get
mhm,
here instead of, going into your head. And I remember one of the practices was, for me, it was always feeling safe. So she said, scan the train and look at one person, and that's going to be your safe person, and figure out why you chose that person, which always brought me back into the moment, as opposed to me saying, well, how about if the train goes or closes and someone comes on and they want to, and I would just blah, 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 go on and go on. But that always brought me back to the moment. So that's a great
maybe
practice.
like a backup plan almost.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting. I like that. Well, instead of our breathing practice today, we're just going to take along with us understanding what the somatic 5 4 3 2 1 practice is. We'll put it in I don't know if I'm necessarily going to put it in our toolkit, but we'll have it, on our resource page so folks can download that and take it with them in practice because it is an excellent thing that no matter if you're a toddler
Yes.
or an elderly person. It's something that you can do at any age. So
Great resource. Yeah.
let's talk a little shift today about the messy middle, right? How would you explain the internal shift to someone that didn't get it? Or
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm saying that wrong. Maybe like, have you ever explained it, your internal shift to someone, and then they didn't get it? I guess that would be a better way to ask it.
Yes, this is a tricky part of the whole process because you yourself, or I myself, didn't have the words to describe it or explain it.
Hmm.
Once again, these shifts are coming without warning for me in my life. And part of it was external, where, loss of a job or, loss of a loved one. But then the internal shifts that are hey, we're not aligning anymore. And I'm going to start moving in a different direction. That's harder to explain because everyone is expecting some sort of linear explanation. Oh, yes, you had a mental breakdown because you're working too hard at work. No, it's not really work. No, it's not really my
Uh-uh.
love life. No, it's not really. And it's hard. And you really need people who will sit patiently and really tune in, because there are, as I said in a different episode, a few people in my life that will really just stop, slow everything down, and laser beam focus on me, allow me to talk, allow me to be vulnerable. And those are the folks that were able to get a glimpse of what that shift looks like. But overall, the general consensus is she's changed. Something
Yeah.
happened. She changed relationships and now she's a different person. So the explaining piece is a huge challenge in my experience with shifting.
Do you feel though that like even when you did change, there's people that refused to see the new you?
Girl, there are people that still call me like my nickname from high school today.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, girl, I have so many different computations of myself. Like that person is like 5 drafts back, 15 drafts back. And you're still equating me with the girl that used to go out to the clubs and all that. Like that was a fun part of my life, but holy, that is just so far from who I am today. And I think people are stuck in that. And it,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I find the people that refuse to see your evolution are the ones that refuse to evolve on their own.
hmm,
Like,
yes,
they don't do any changes. Everything has to be the same for their entire life, and so they see you in that one mindset, and they don't take everything into consideration, and they don't see the growth, because if they notice the growth in you, that means they're gonna notice the lack of growth within themselves.
right, right.
Mhm,
And some people just, they just live in that space of familiarity, right? Like
mhm.
they just,
'Cause it's their safety.
this is who they are. And it's like that, all that stuff, living where I lived in the projects in Harlem, moving into, having the relationship that I have, growing and evolving. These are steps, right? I have these wonderful steps that
Mhm.
I, with so much gratitude, appreciate because they are building into the person that I am today. And I will have further steps to take. But to stay stuck in a, on a rock 3 paces, 10 paces, 15 paces
Uh-huh.
behind is just not my level of evolution and leveling up. And that's when certain people get left behind.
Yeah.
It's not out of anything other than we're just growing at different paces.
Yes. It is very much that, and a lot of people think, like, it's almost a disrespectful thing, like, "You can't shift like us, then you're out." No, it's like our energies don't align right now,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna support you from afar.
And I'll always wish you well, but it's just not going to happen parallel to what we're doing. So,
I found that trying to explain my internal shift to people, or I shouldn't say to people because it's not like I was standing on the street corner broadcasting it, but, like, with people that either I wanted to be close with or I thought we were supposed to be close, like, family or different friends and things like that, and they just didn't get it, and they would downplay it or blow it off or try
hmm,
to act like it was just something generic, kinda like you said, or they would be like, "Oh, your life's not that bad," which I wasn't going for, like, my life's bad, it's just, like, I was trying to work through a situation from time to time, and they just couldn't see the dynamics
yes,
and the growth opportunities that I was trying to achieve and the refinement that I was trying to make within myself, because they only see the external and they're like, "Oh, you're just fine," because they're looking at it through the lens of the comparison too, right?
absolutely.
You're great at that. You'll be fine." Or just blow it off.
Hmm,
Right.
hmm. And the other part that always got me was the rationalization of it. Like people try to put it into boxes of like, you're feeling that because of blah, blah, blah. And I just want to say, well, I don't even know why I'm feeling this. So I don't know how you can become this expert on what it is.
Mhm.
So if you're ever on the opposite side of this and someone is shifting, it's really important to just hear, just listen, just hear. That's all I needed when I was shifting and I was sharing it with someone. I just wanted someone to allow me to be vulnerable in a safe space and take what I was saying as sacred. And not that I wanted a solution and not that I wanted a next step or a rationalization. I just needed someone to be there so that if there was something that bubbled up, I can explore it with them. And I had that space to do that. So it's important to know who to talk to when you want to share that shift.
And being on the other side of it though, right? Where you're not being the one that's going to share your shift, but the person that someone's sharing their shift with. I have found if at any moment it is unclear on how to support that person best, ask, "What can I do to support
Mm,
you best?" Is it and you don't even have to give the, like, multiple choice of, is it just listening? Are you looking for a solution? Are you looking for a resource? You don't have to list the things, but you can say, "How can I support you best?" And sometimes people will say, "I just needed to vent and get it off my chest." And then that's okay, and then you just hold that space for them to let them get it off their chest. It doesn't mean you have to fix it. You don't have to meddle in their life. You don't have to do anything. You just have to create that safe space for a moment. But I find that if you just simply ask if you're ever unsure, how can I help you best? People know.
Yeah.
People know what they need.
And something that someone did for me many years back was I was sharing, just this very uncertain time, my shifts and all the things that I was going through. And the person said, "Thank you for sharing that with me." And that it's hard to approach someone with such vulnerability and to say, "I really just need to have this within us and I need to share this with you." And there's always for me that inkling of I'm just dumping this on someone and, I hope they're okay with me doing that. I trust them enough to do so. And when that person thanked me, I just wanted to just smother them in hugs and tears because it just felt like thank you for also just taking this as sacredly as you did. So
Yeah.
I think that's also another piece to this that I felt in my history was so, so valuable to me to have that.
It's true, right? That someone recognized that you were a safe space, and they're giving you that gratefulness too for, allowing them to be your safe space. So that is an important thing for sure. I also had to learn that just because I was comfortable being a safe space for certain people, that I had to learn that it doesn't mean I need to have to fix it or figure it out for them. And it doesn't mean that I maybe sometimes it's just checking in on them like, "Hey, how are things going?" And leave it at that. And it's not that you're left in a cliffhanger and you need to know every detail. Sometimes it's just, sending out a lifeline to let them know like someone loves you, someone's thinking about you, and if you need a safe space, I'm here.
Yes.
So that's a big thing. How did your relationships or your work life or maybe your faith of whatever that is in your community, like all of those things, like during this messy middle time, what around you shifted?
So I started to try some of them things out in different areas of my life. So in work, I was wanting, so early in my career, I wanted to be liked and I
Mm,
started to create those roles again as I did as a child of, I want to be the director everyone really wants to talk to. And I want to be the person that can grant everyone's wishes. And when I was shifting, I said to myself, I need to be more direct. I need to be more authentic. I need to hold people accountable. And I started to change my approach. And I remember early on, people would say, like, wow, you're so different now. And, was there a training that you took or something? And they responded to my directness. And I think once again, it's just, a reaction of shifting and trying to put some sort of rationalization onto it. And it's just, no, this is something that has come to realization for me.
well, how did you get this directness? Like what gave you the voice?
So I started to uh one of the things that happens in my life and patterns and maybe for others is that you go back to what you know, right? So if you go into a new circumstance, so for me, for my career, I automatically went back to the people pleaser, the one that is going to, smooth everything out, the problem solver at the expense of myself.
Mhm.
So when I was granted this role as a director of a school, I started to do that early on in my career where I wanted everyone, all of the employees to be my friend. And I wanted the families to be super happy because I was able to grant them whatever they were asking for.
Yes, yeah.
And then I realized, well, that's putting me under so much pressure because can I
Mhm.
deliver all of that? And I was the one carrying that.
Mhm.
Then at one point I stopped myself and I had to like have that moment of why am I going back to the preteen Sandra that was pleasing, people pleasing and doing all the things? Why am I afraid to put my foot down and make myself known and all of that? So even though you may shift, you can I will automatically, because those things are still wired in my brain, right? So there are times where I see myself going back to that space as a way to manage a new situation or whatever I'm dealing with. And I have to check myself. And I have to say, no, you shifted out of that. And now what does that look like in a career sense as opposed to a social sense or in your family or things like that? So I feel like it's a constant lesson of going back to, if I go into a new thing, a new venture, looking at this podcast or some
Uh-huh.
things, how am I embracing the shift and leaving the other stuff back? Or am I doing some of those things that I did when I shifted out of that space in other places?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, so that's where I am.
Do you feel like because there's just a little bit lack of confidence in new things?
So with new things, so I like to, so there is that issue of like lack of confidence or just because I'm a person of control or like
Uh-huh.
to control things, I, if it's something new, then obviously I don't have a script or a handbook. So I'm going to go into this saying, okay, well, what are some things that I can do to help me through that? And once again, I go back to, the things that I used to do many years ago. So I think it's definitely something of trusting myself that I will figure out my way, that I can go through something that's new, and then, create something that I never expected. As I said to you in the last podcast, there were so many shifts in my life that I came out the other end so much better. And prior to that, I was kicking and screaming. So I'm trying to release some of that resistance and essentially go with it and allow myself to surrender to it.
Well, I think finding your voice is a big thing, right? And I think for a lot of people, when you talk about being direct, that freaks a lot of people out because they don't want to have intimate conversations. They don't want to have direct conversations. They want to passive aggressively, like, you know, work things into conversations and hope that you pick up on it and hope that you take the lead in spearheading a certain conversation because they just are so uncomfortable doing it. Or that you'll have those people that hold it in for so long. And then when they do deal with it directly, it's aggressive and it's full of emotion. And then you have this huge mess, right? That you have to then unpack and clean up after you've organized. So, after the shift and you're coming out of that messy middle in a sense, what are some tips that maybe you would give someone that isn't comfortable with having direct conversations or vulnerable conversations? Is there like a starting tip that you could give someone on how to begin that process? Because it's all a practice and it's not always going to be well received and you have to keep trying.
Yes. So I'm a writer. We've talked about that. I write letters to people all the time that I don't send, but I
Okay.
use as talking points. So there are times where there's a circumstance, a situation, I don't feel comfortable being direct with it. I just play it out on paper. And that's a safe space and you can hear your voice and work through your voice on that. So that has definitely helped me. And then I, in the opposite way, as I've said, being in like an overthinker and all of that, I start to think of, instead of focus on the negative of it, just think of what are all the possibilities that could come out of me being direct. Let's list them out. One, the person is going to come back at me. Okay, two, they want to break off the relationship. Or three, so you think about all of those scenarios, and some of those scenarios are going to feel like, no, that's actually going to happen, but some other scenarios maybe actually happen. So working through those scenarios as well helps me because I'm just a person who likes to be prepared. So having those opportunities to kind of dialogue with a journal, a piece of paper, or something to help you through that takes away the thunder of that.
And the anxiety of it.
Yes.
It's a great idea. I've never thought of that. Also, maybe I'm thinking when you were saying that about what kind of questions or things that you would write down, like, what would come out of this. I also thought, what if you were exploring what do you need out of this conversation,
Mhm,
right? Like to write, like, I need to be heard. I
mhm.
need an apology. I need collaboration. I need more one of the 5 love languages. You know what I mean? Like, it is a really interesting thing to write it out, right? Of something that you want to say to someone, to be direct, to get that practice, even though you will never give it to them, but to also write out, what do you need out of this, maybe even after reflecting from it. And then it might guide the way you're going to write, which will guide the way that you speak and express yourself.
And I think when you're in your head, you have not only that circumstance in your head, you have 10,000 other things that are happening.
Mm,
And sometimes you have to separate that out. Physically, we talked about somatic work. Like this is a physical act, right? So you're writing it out and you're explaining, you know, all the things. And when you put that muck that's in your head, all that kind of disorganization and that messiness onto paper, it's so clear. And there's
interesting.
been so many times for me that I have been, just on a particular topic over and over and over. And I say, get it out your body, get it out your head, put it on paper. And then you could say, you know what? It's on paper. I can let it go off out of my head. And I've done that as a part of my, um, as a part of my practice as well. So I think,
Yeah, I think it helps you process your emotion about it though too, right?
yes,
Like,
yes,
I feel it as you're talking about it, I'm like, "Oh, I feel space in my body just with you explaining it."
for sure, because that's the thing. Once it's in there, it's like this Tasmanian devil.
Mm,
And when you say to yourself, "Oh, the devil is, that Tasmanian devil is out of my head and now on paper, that's where I'm going to approach it, not up here anymore, over there." So those are some of the things that I did in my approach to those direct conversations, because they're not easy, and it leads to so many other things, but that has been a real good tool for me.
wow, that's an amazing tip, I really like that, I can't wait to share that here with the family about some things I have attempted trying, writing things out just to share with people versus verbally, because I don't want the emotions to take over, but I love that where I can do it in a safe space and not have to share it, and I can work out my emotions and what I need out of a situation to really clear my head, so that's amazing, thank you so much for that. What about letting go? Like, what's one expectations that you have released, even if you haven't replaced it yet, but if you have replaced it, I want to hear that too, but just an expectation you've released.
My one of my expectations that I released is that not everyone is going to stick around. So and
And
once
that's
again,
okay.
yeah, yeah. And that's, close people, family, all of that. And I don't need a replacement for that, really, because as I said, one of the biggest things was always trying to be the person that brings everyone together, and to
Mhm.
sacrifice myself. And right now I'm in a season in my life of pouring into myself, and I'm looking at things around my health. I'm looking at things around my creativity and my happiness and my peace. So right now, the expectation that anyone, if you're along on the ride and we align, I love it. I'm about it. Let's do it.
Mhm.
But if there isn't that alignment, and I'm okay with them kind of falling off the wayside, because they're self-selecting at that
Yeah.
point, right?
And hopefully when they do fall off, right, the same path, hopefully they're aligning more to their path.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like, I want, with this podcast and with, our conversations, I want folks to find what is right for them. And it may not be my exact, next steps in my exact journey, but to find your path is just so enlightening. And the goal is, that's life right there, right?
Yeah.
We want to live a fulfilled life. So absolutely. And I hope that as I continue to grow and develop in this season of my life, that I can start building that community where we have, similar alignments and things so that there is that force of one another supporting one another. And that's, through so many resources and things.
I love that. I'm trying to think of an expectation. I think my expectation would have been that I can do everything alone, right? I can do it on myself. I'm independent. But I know it sounds crazy to have learned it this late in life, but that's one of those things where you're not supposed to shame yourself, right? You're supposed to go, you know what? I learned it when I was meant to learn it.
Mhm.
And we moved back to Florida, which we're, from Florida, so we understand all that it comes with that. But we were in Colorado for 10 years. We came back to Florida. We bought a huge property, sight unseen, completely renovating it, like biggest, most overwhelming thing we've ever done. But it was all a complete universal thing. Like the universe called us to it. And for the first 3 years, I was like, "Why? And what that?" You know? But we had probably the worst hurricane season that we have personally experienced as adults, right? Because we were growing up here and, like, your parents take care of all that stuff then, so we experienced hurricane season as adults with 8 acres, completely fenced in, with animals, with all of these things that you have to maintain, and it was 4 hurricanes back to back, and it was intense because every single one of them were different, and by number 4, to say we were exhausted in the soul was an understatement, right? To have to see the destruction or to have to constantly prepare and, hunker things down every single time for months at a time when we're also still running a business on our property and all of these things. And this last one just, luckily, there was no damage, but it was just trees down everywhere or like damage to the fence, but that's repairable.
Mhm.
Mm. Oops, I froze. Sorry about that. Let me see here. See? Technology's getting glitchy, getting all kind of crazy, but we have to be flexible. Anyways, from our Airbnb that we run here on our property and we host people, some of them follow us afterwards, right? Some of them we really connect with. Well, I was sharing all the damage from the hurricanes and the things that we're experiencing on the property. And one of our past guests reached out to us and she said, my heart goes out to you. I've seen what you guys have been going through, and we're trying to figure it out. We're going to fly to Florida to help you with the cleanup. And I was like, what? Like, dude, you met us one time. Like, how can you care about us that much? And you saw us and you met us and you connected with us one time. And it literally rocked my world because I don't even think I saw myself the way they were seeing us, right? So, like, I felt seen, but it helped me to realize and see myself in the situation. And she said, we are not meant to do this life alone. And I was, and, I'm not typically an emotional person, or at least I wasn't in the past because I had a lot of heart wall blockage and barriers and stuff. But I've done a lot of work, which we'll probably talk about throughout the episodes. But it broke me
Mhm.
in a way of like a dam breaking. And the emotion I felt and the love that I felt and being seen, I know it sounds crazy, but it almost feels like, it feels weird to say it out loud now. Um, like that moment, where I was like looking for my mother to see me as that 13-year-old girl to say, "Do you just see me for me?" That out of nowhere, this perfect stranger in a sense, that I had only met this one time that lives in a complete other state, she saw us and was like, "We're here to help." And it made me realize I need to ask for help. I
Mm.
need to create that support circle. I need to tell people I'm not strong right now and I need you to back me up in whatever way fits you, but I need you to back me up. And, after reflecting and taking some time, I let her know, like, I don't want you guys to go out of your way to, fly here to help us and stuff like that. But what you have already done is more than enough by opening my mind, opening my heart, making me comfortable to be vulnerable and knowing that I needed to ask for help. And so that expectation of having to do it all on my own, and even though it was a very recent lesson that I was able to replace it with, like, I was just never comfortable with accepting help from anybody.
What a beautiful lesson through the storm.
Uh,
I mean, it is, you don't realize what you need until you get it,
mm,
right? Like,
that's
who would,
true.
and when you get it, it's just such a gift because now it gives you such a different perspective. So, boy, that's powerful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your messages can come from all places, right? And
Yeah.
you just have to be willing to listen. Is there any emotions that happen to keep returning to you from this in between space? Not necessarily the habits, right? Because you mentioned I had this habit of people pleasing, but is there a particular emotion from that in between space that you find keeps popping up at different times? And if so, like, how do you address it?
Yeah, it's I tend to want to be quiet again. Like in the
Mm,
sense of like more of a diminishing as opposed to quiet and listening. And it's easier. It really is. It's easier to allow people to do their thing or to have, whatever it is that they have or need. And I would say that it does take time and effort and sometimes bravery to
mm,
be in that space of shifts. I think that having when I have those moments, I know that it's time and I know that I'm tired or that I'm burnt out because I'm allowing the automatic to take over. And I have to remember I'm not going back to that or I'm not the person that needs to be diminished, right? So then I say, okay, I need a rest. I need peace. I need something alone or I need to replenish myself. So those are things that I do when those things bubble up, when those feelings bubble up. And I
save
feel
that for my next question.
sorry.
Oh, I'm like, you're right on point all the time. I love it.
But yeah, so those are some of the things that I do to really just help combat that and also see that and also sit with it and see it and say, okay, you're back. Why are you back? It's one of the things that I've talked to you like one of my therapists was like, "You'll never recover." And she said it so coldly too. She's like, "You'll never recover from anxiety. Like this is a lifelong." And I
I
was
hate
like,
limitations. I'm like,
"Yeah,
don't put me in a
in a
box.
box, right?" And I also said, I've said about like grief, like I know that grief will always be with me, um, but it's not a negative word. It's not a negative thing. So when it comes to this, it's like I don't see it as, oh my gosh, here this, self-deprecating thoughts are coming and all of that. No, what's up? What are we talking about today? Why are you back? What is the message that you want to give me? So I think welcoming it, accepting it, having a seat at the table for it. Because if I continue to ignore it or stifle it or push it down, it's like here I am, sucker. I'm back and I'm back with, more with a vengeance. And I don't want anything to come back, that strong. So
To grab. You guys are gonna have to pause for a minute. Something happened with my laptop charger and my laptop's about to die. But talk about some small habits and practices that can help you feel anchored while I find my laptop charger really quick.
absolutely. So some small practices that I take to make me feel anchored and to bring me back to today is the spending time in nature. Spending time in nature has helped me to slow down and realizing that there is there's such support in sitting and looking at the sky or just the trees or anything that's around. So nature has really been a huge support and a huge anchor for me coming from a city girl.
I know, that's funny because 'cause you're always talking about those botanical gardens. What's that other place? It's a arbor?
Arboretum.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So I was just don't ever put me anywhere. I remember when I went onto Jen's property and she's like, "You want to help me wrangle ducks?" And I'm like, "Oh God, am I dressed appropriately? Are the ducks gonna like my earrings and my outfit?" I mean, it was just interesting, but to be like on Jen's property and just to feel the energy, like there's so much energy on her space in this peaceful, just receiving way. Like I could just lay there or just sit and really just receive. And I think we tend to, in this modern society, forget the power that is nature. So that is definitely one of my anchors.
It's true, and I feel like healthy anchoring things were not something that I ever saw growing up,
Yes.
and I don't think I did any positive, healthy anchoring until we moved back here. And I know where I was in my life before the calling that brought us here.
Uh-huh.
I was desperate for a lot of improvement in different areas of my life, health, mental health, physical health, emotional health, all of these things. And looking back at it, I didn't have anything positive that I was doing for myself, nothing. And I was doing the poor behaviors and habits and coping mechanisms that I had seen other people do.
Uh-huh.
And they just never worked for me and I didn't know why. And I'd keep going back to the same thing and I just didn't know why it wasn't working for me. Why can other people do it but not me? But you're right. Being here, I think maybe that's why like I don't have much of a desire to go anywhere because anything you could think of doing or experiencing, I feel like we can do here on our property. And I mean, I have farm feet, man. I'm like barefoot. I'm out and grounding all the time. And yes, I have to like scrub my toes and do pedicures, DIY pedicures extra because, it's a little rustic, but it's just so invigorating. It's so
Yeah.
peaceful. So, well, hopefully we can talk more throughout our episodes about really just healthy habits and anchoring. Absolutely. I'm just in love with your write it out process. The shifting out loud blog piece of our website really is hopefully we can really encourage you more than me because I'm not really the writer. Um, to really just help express yourself out loud in those methods. And maybe you'll write a blog post about this, writing it out and
Uh-huh.
how to, start that practice of being direct in this quiet manner so that we can start getting comfortable with it. And, I want everybody to think about this activation for this week, right? What's something that you're still holding on to that no longer fits? And what would it take to begin letting it go? And I think you're writing it out is a great first step. It's so powerful. So the messy middle is where transformation brews, and it's okay not to know. It's okay to feel all of it, even if it's through paper. The clarity will come, and it is just part of your story, right? You might be a little girl one day in your garage making a scene and writing plays. And then multiple years later, you're producing a podcast and you never even fathomed that you'd have the skill or the confidence
Yes,
to do
girl.
anything like that. So take each opportunity to learn something, to develop a new skill out of it. And, remember through this, print out your shift toolkit. Make a binder because it's so amazing. It sounds daunting, and maybe one day we'll get all techie and make an app and stuff like that. But it's really interesting when you do the shift work with us and you're printing out these toolkits and you're following along these amazing shift activation prompts that Sandra helps to create. And then you look back at it over time, you can see the shift. You can see the messy middle. You can see the growth and the gifts of the shift. And I think it's important to know your life story and not let someone else write it.
Amen. Yes.
So I'm going to create all sorts of fun things in our shift toolkit. We add even music in there because, Sandra's like all about the music. Remember, do you know that song Shawn Mendes? It's In My
Yes.
Blood. It isn't in my blood. Anyways, that's my like song theme for this. Like, it's not in my blood to just let life take me over. I want to take over life. So, well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Whether this shift sparked a new perspective, brought something old to the surface like it did for me, or just made you feel a little seen, like my Airbnb guest, which I'm so grateful for her. We're so glad that you were here for it. So take a moment to check in with yourself because, you never know if someone's going to check in with you, or you can be a check in for someone as well. Leave us a review if you like this episode. Hashtag Shift Sister Podcast on any socials that you're using. Share this episode with someone that's shifting. And we cannot wait to find out what yummy things you're sipping on, what breath practices that you're having, and the success that's coming along with it. We love talking shift with you.
And that's it for today's shift. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us. If you're loving the conversation, become a shifty. Like, follow, subscribe, and most of all, share this episode with someone who's shifting too, or someone who seriously needs to get their shift together.
Do you have thoughts, questions, topic requests, or maybe you're feeling the nudge to collaborate? Visit us at shiftsisterpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're so grateful for your presence, your friendship, and your willingness to do the work with us. Because shift happens and we're not meant to do it alone.
We'll meet you back here next time to breathe, reflect, and talk shift.